Hi there, welcome back to the channel. So I've been playing with doing this kind of video for a while, and the Dress to Kill achievement video actually was doing pretty well. So I decided I'd come back to do another kind of like brief walkthrough on how to do Hades 2 speedrunning. Specifically, what we're going to be covering today is real-time attack, RTA, speedrunning strategy, or gameplay rather, and we're focusing on that because that's the style that I like to run. RTA is not used for the main leaderboards. Like the most common leaderboard in Hades 2 is the Any Fear category, which is run via in-game time rather than real time. But there are several categories that do run real time. Pretty much every real-time category is a multi-run, which basically just means that you are doing more than one clear in a row at a time. Examples would be the 3 weapons run, where you clear either the underworld or the surface with 3 separate weapons. Or you'd have the all weapons run, which is all the weapons in either surface or underworld. And there's also the all regions run, which is basically just taking a singular aspect and then running surface and underworld back to back, or underworld then surface. Doesn't really matter. But the RTA categories are the ones that I like the best. And it's partially also because those are the ones that give you better, I would say better marathon practice. In-game time is great, and it's incredibly competitive. Like, the top time ever run on Hades 2 was under 4 minutes in-game time, which is actually insane. But it's a totally different world. And IGT requires a lot of, like, pausing and like pause buffering and strategies that you can use that will stop the in-game timer when real time keeps ticking. So in-game time strats are also very viable, very cool, very interesting, but that's not what we're going to be covering today, because it's not my specialty. So first things first, let's talk about the Altar of Ashes. The setup that I use is generally a very safe setup. And I want to highlight that it's safe because it gives you both Wayward Sun and Persistence, both things that are able to keep you alive in a pinch. Like, Persistence gives you the extra 40 health and 40 magic right off the bat. Wayward Sun heals you 5 in every single room as you exit. I like having those because, you know, in case you get in a tight spot, you always have that kind of backup. Some of the top runners, however, will forgo it in favor of something like the Lovers, which also is very good defensively because it does prevent you from taking 3 hits in a boss fight, which is the most crucial time where you can get hit. So that's also a totally viable strategy that a lot of runners use. Mine also is just general damage focus. Like, I've got the Sorceress, which is faster, Omega moves, super handy. I like having the Huntress attack and special deal plus 50% damage when you're less than 100% mana. So most rooms, you'll notice that I kind of start by burning some of that magic as quickly as possible. And then that way I get a plus 50% damage right off the rip. The Furies, you deal plus 30% damage to foes in your casts. That's all types of damage. Like, whereas the Huntress is only attack and special, and doesn't even include Omega attacks and Omega specials. The Furies is all sources of damage. Deal plus 30% as long as it's in your cast, which includes cast damage. Like, Zeus cast is already buffed by 30% just for being in the Furies. Origination is another one that's going to give you a pretty big damage boost, and so this one's pretty much considered universally required. Like, you will want to run origination. All it requires is for you to do 2 different curses from 2 different Olympians on any enemy, and then they suddenly start taking plus 50% damage. That's an incredible boost. Like, especially when combined with, like, the Huntress. Like, you're getting plus 100% damage on attacks and specials after you've inflicted 2 status curses, which is often not too hard to do. And so this is kind of a key thing that we want to work around, and so we'll talk about that a little more in depth as we're going into, like, the build ideas and stuff. Another common thing is to run this reroll corner here. Because it gives you the Enchantress, which lets you alter location rewards. You get the Champions, which lets you alter boons and other choices. And then the Fates gives you a +4 to all of those rerolls, which is super handy because it effectively gives you 10 rerolls for the entire for the run. There are a couple ways that you can gain more in the middle of a run, but just having those 10 rerolls is super helpful. To activate the Fates, you also have to have the Boatman active, which is pretty useful. Like, it allows you to get into your first, like, 1 or 2 shops without having to worry about, do I have enough money? Because you pretty much just will. I really like the Swift Runner. I think most people run it because extra sprint speed plus the ability to let you pass through enemies is incredibly useful. Like, it's just great for maneuvering. The Centaur is a 0 card that pretty much will be active for pretty much any Arcana setup that you're really going to use, because there's plenty valuable choices of all the different numbers. So that one's pretty much going to be granted. Divinity requires you to have a full line, whereas the Queen requires you to have no more than 2 of any given denomination. 2 of any cost, I should say. I don't aim to run the Queen. Like, I know some people will get the Queen just by running that setup, but then you're not getting a line. So I'm sure some would... Oh no, wait, you're still getting the line, never mind. So that totally makes sense too. It gives you the duos. It's another reason to run Lovers instead of Persistence Wayward. But a lot of people also change different things depending on how their build goes. Like, Huntress is great, obviously. Knight is also very, very good if you're using an aspect that helps you cycle between Omega moves. The best example I can think of off the top of my head is Eos. The Eos torches, you're gonna be using an Omega attack and then an Omega special pretty much every time you're getting your combo out. The slight downside is that it's only in a combo, so if you start with the Omega attack on Eos, it's not going to benefit from the plus 15% crit chance. You have to use a separate Omega first, before you use the Eos Omega attack and then the Eos Omega special. So I guess you'd open with an Omega cast to really get the most benefit out of it, but at that point you're soaking so much mana. It's kind of rough. So I generally don't like running Knight myself, but a lot of top runners still do that for different builds. So the fun part about the Arcana is that it's so customizable, and I'd say that there's no, like, several different runners run different setups, and I think arguably the most competitive one is this setup right here, or, you know, trading something for Knight if you need to. Some people don't always even run Huntress. Some run these two instead. But it's very customizable. You can kind of choose what works for you. The setup that I run is generally very beginner friendly. So that's if you're thinking about getting into speedrunning, that's definitely an option that you might want to go with. Alrighty, as for animal familiars,
farewell.
This also really depends on what weapon you're going to be using, how you're going to be using it. Hecuba is a lot more appealing on magic-hungry builds, especially ones where you're not running Persistence. Persistence giving you that extra 40 is super handy. Hecuba gives you an additional... How much is that? An additional 60, which is incredibly useful. She also stuns enemies around her, which is super handy as well. And great for magic soaking builds. Gale is incredible. If you're able to keep Gale active until the end of a region and use it on the boss of the region, she is incredible for adding like a nice supplementary damage to your build, as well as blocking crucial attacks. So if you're really good at dodging, you can actually get to the boss of a region and effectively have the lovers in the form of Gale. Just the only difference is that Gale has a cooldown, whereas the lovers does not. I really like Rocky. Rocky's the one that I generally go with because he gives you some extra crit chance, which, you know, criticals are nice. I'm generally a pretty, like... I'm very pro RNG in this game personally, and so I like running crit builds. I like running things with big damage, but might not always work out for you. I like rolling the dice on it. So I generally go with Rocky myself, but absolutely, like, almost every familiar is like... I'd say all the familiars are totally viable in different situations. Tula gets run on high fear. I believe Phrynos has some usage in some high fear. Like, especially Phrynos is great for helping you deal with Hecate when you're first, like, starting out. Phrynos will block her Twilight Curse, which is super handy. And so if you're really struggling with that move in particular, Phrynos can help you out of a bind there. In terms of Oaths of the Unseen, this is generally the setup that is run for the Underworld Any Fear run. You can run it without time. Time truly does not matter, whether you have it or not. Basically, the only difference is, you know, time means that you have to clear it in 5 minutes or less. Clear every region in 5 minutes or less, which is super doable if you're on a speed run. Like, most of the time you will have, like, easily over 10 minutes left over by the time you get to the end. So time generally is just gonna work out if you're on a speed run, so it's totally optional whether you run it or not. It's mostly just for flex points. Okay, Frenzy is a big one. As of the Unseen update, Frenzy now has the same properties that the speed boost in Hades 1 gives. I believe it was forced overtime. Insofar as not only does it make enemies move and attack faster, it also makes them spawn in faster now. And so Frenzy is great for two reasons. One, faster spawns means you kill them faster. And two, several bosses have, like, invulnerability cycles. And Frenzy speeding up those attacks means those attacks end sooner, which then means that you can wail on them faster. So Frenzy is generally, like, really, really good. Admittedly, you don't have to throw it onto Frenzy 2 right as you're starting. Like, for my first bits learning to speedrun this game, I absolutely had Frenzy on level 1 for a long time before I was finally comfortable with running 2. And I did that with both the surface and the underworld. It took me a long time to get used to Frenzy 2 on the surface, but one day I was just kind of like doing several surface runs, and then I got to the end of, I think it was like a 3-weapon run or something, and I went to the Oaths of the Unseen and I was like, wait a second, I was running that on Frenzy too? Oh dang, I can do it now. So, you can totally work your way up there.
Will of night.
And it's the same with the Arcana and stuff. If you're feeling like you want to use safer strats to start out, that's okay. You will get better at the game the more you play it. Finally, let's talk about the Vow of Shadows. The Vow of Shadows is generally considered significantly faster for the Underworld route. And that's entirely because the Shadow Spiller in Erebus has... let's see if I can bring it up. The Shadow Spiller in Erebus has this really obnoxious property where when you're fighting it, it's kind of in the center of the arena, and it has a bunch of like shadow around the arena, and then you have these thorn weepers, 3 of them all around the outside. If you kill the thorn weeper, or sorry, if you kill the Shadow Spiller, you have to kill the 3 thorn weepers before the encounter is actually cleared, unless you have the Vow of Shadows on. The Vow of Shadows instead adds a bunch of potent whalers to the fight, which are mildly annoying, but since this is a speedrun, you're going to be bursting the mini-boss anyway. So generally, the Vow of Shadows is so much better because it takes, I would say, probably half the time, maybe even a quarter of the time, if you have Vow of Shadows on versus if you don't. It does, as a fair bit of warning, it does make the other mini-boss encounters for the rest of the run slightly more difficult. So it's totally understandable if you're not getting used to it at first, but it's so handy once you get it down. There has been an argument made that Vow of Shadows is also situationally more useful on the surface as well. But it's an extremely high-level strat that you'd have to employ, that revolves around hitch-based tactics. So I wouldn't recommend running Shadow on the surface. Generally, it's not faster by default. It's kind of a niche strategy that requires some high-level play to be able to utilize it in the way that some high-level runners have kind of suggested. So if you're running surface, I'd generally say probably run without, but if you're able to tap into those strategies, you can look into it and give it a shot yourself. I can't explain it. It's too complex for me. Alrighty. As for Keepsakes, generally the progression of Keepsakes goes one of 2 different ways in the Underworld. In the Underworld, generally the progression is, option number 1 is you start with a general Olympian keepsake of the Olympian that you plan to build your weapon around. So in this case, since we're going to be doing an Artemis Daggers run, I really like running Aphrodite. Apollo is also a nice option to run with Artemis Daggers, and I'm sure you could make a case for Hephaestus Scorch as well, but I really like Aphrodite. Aphrodite is a lot of fun. For Oceanus, you're generally going to be picking up Fig Leaf from Dionysus because it gives you a single encounter in 3 separate regions where it's just free. And so that's 3 rooms in the entire run that are now free, theoretically, if you bring the Fig Leaf. So it's 100% worth it. Absolutely, Fig Leaf is a great thing to bring to any speedrun. Generally, the next option for fields tends to go between Gorgon Amulet, Metallic Droplet, and some niche strategies employ White Antler. Gorgon Amulet is very, very useful because it summons Athena, and since generally we run with strength on speedruns because it gives you that extra 20% boost and reduced damage just for running without Death Defiances. But it also gives you access to Athena. And Athena is going to clear out the final wave of an encounter, which is already super useful. But it's even more useful for in-game time, because if she spawns in the fields, when she lands with her dunk and then clears out the area where she lands, you can run around the entire room and collect all the other stuff, with the exception of the other encounter. You can run around the room, map it out, collect all the stuff, and then go back to her, and the timer will be stopped. So Athena is super helpful on fields in that regard. She also gives like a really useful boon, especially on magic heavy builds. It's super handy to have Righteous Pikes. The other two, Hermes is great because it gives you extra speed for fields, and fields is a lot of ground to cover. So a lot of people actually like taking Hermes as well, the metallic droplet. There's a niche strategy for the white antler in fields, which basically involves you taking white antler into the fields, and then once you get to Echo, hoping that she gives you gift, which allows you to repeat your current Keepsakes effect in the next region. So to pick white antler in fields is really rolling the dice and hoping that when you get to Echo, she will have gift, and then allow you to run antler effectively in 2 regions instead of just 1. It's kind of niche, and I mean, it gives you significantly less crit chance than it would on regular, but some people like using it anyway. As for Tartarus, the generally accepted speed strategy is pick White Antler. White Antler has an absurd amount of burst damage due to the increased crit rate that you have on all attacks. Any source of damage has a plus 30% crit rate, and it's incredibly useful to just like dunk on enemies. And generally the idea is you want to kill enemies faster than they can even hit you. While it does limit you to 30 HP and is therefore very, very dangerous, it does really pay off if you're able to do it. If you still want to do speedruns and stuff and you're really struggling with White Antler, it's also okay to pick a couple different keepsakes as well. I really like Lion's Fang because it gives you a nice 50% damage boost in the first room that kind of tapers off as you go. But once you finally get to the Chronos or Typhon room, it's still like a solid 25%. So you're not missing a whole lot. It's still a plus 25% damage boost globally. So super handy. I also really like Black and Fleece. If you're like me and you're not very good at dodging things, you're gonna take the 250 damage through the run. Which is kind of hilarious in hindsight, but also it gives you an extra of plus 40% damage to your Omega moves. So this is very useful on very Omega heavy builds. Like I really enjoy running this on EOS if I get the opportunity. But otherwise, Lion Fang is a good second option. If you're really still learning the ropes, Knuckle Bones is not a bad idea because it removes 15% of the Guardian's health like in a burst in the first couple of seconds. And then it also makes you take reduced damage for the rest of the encounter. So that one's also pretty useful. The secondary style of speedrunning that's really caught on lately is starting with Jeweled Palm and then continuing with the Dionysus, Athena, Antler combo generally is how the rest of the run goes. But starting with the Jeweled Palm is incredibly potent. Like, to put things in perspective, the most boons have +3 palm levels is very, very potent. Like, +3 palm levels is roughly 2 degrees of rarity. So that's taking a common to an epic just by picking whatever it is. So super handy if you want to pick that up. But the kicker is that you have to be running without any rerolls, and you can't use any Olympian summoning keepsakes. So you are totally at the mercy of RNG as to which Olympians you get, what boons you get. If the layout isn't great for your build, you're kind of just stuck with it. But if it hits, it hits. And it also gives you a random Hades boon, some of which are very, very potent. I know Gigaros Dash is really useful in high fear runs, but there's a couple out there that are pretty solid. Like there's one that reduces the number of minions. Generally, we don't take Hades rooms in speedruns, so I'm not as familiar with his boons, but yeah. As for me, I generally prefer running the Olympian into the rest of the run, just because it gives you the start that you want, which is great. Each weapon, each aspect is going to have a different thing that you want to start with, and it's okay to experiment. You don't have to do exactly what is expected right out the gate. Like, I know a very popular strat is Medea with Zeus special, but there was a while there where people were actually playing around with Hephaestus attack, and you can run any weapon, any aspect with any Olympian and still find a way to have fun with it. It may not be setting world records, but you can still have fun, you can still go fast. Each one of these aspects has a different build path that if you commit yourself to, you can find an incredible build with. Something that nobody else is doing. Maybe something that nobody else has seen because that aspect is maybe underlooked. There's plenty of experimenting to be done in this game still. I like running the Artemis daggers. I know it's one of the weakest speed weapons in the game, especially compared to the aspect of the Morrigan, which is universally considered the best dagger for speedruns, but I really like Artemis. It's my favorite, and I'll show you a little bit of why as we're doing the run itself. I do plan to eventually... I'm not going to dive too much into the Artemis daggers build path on this particular episode because I want to do dedicated tutorial videos for all of my favorite aspects. My general background is I really like doing all weapons runs, and so I have made sure that I have at least one aspect of all 6 weapons that I am familiar with and that I like. And some of these builds are builds that I came up with entirely on my own. Some of them are with some guidance from others. So I will go into those specific ones a little bit later. Anyway, with all of that said, the last thing you need to do before you hit the road on a speedrun is reroll the seed. You can also, it's also valid for you to go into a run and die and show the pre-run death in order for it to be valid, but you can't just pick all your stuff and run out the gate. Because then there's no way of verifying that the run that you're doing is not seeded. So it's very important for you to show either a pre-run death or yourself re-rolling the seed at the oath of the altar of the unseen here. Anyway, with all of that said, let's get on the run.
Let's keep this up.
Alright, so generally before you go into a run, you're gonna have like a core boon that you already probably know what you want right off the rip. And so, as soon as you see it, it's gonna be, okay, there it is, we go. Poseidon's okay. So a major difference between running RTA versus IGT is that there are some, like I said, pause strats, things that you can do on IGT that you can't do on RTA. Or rather, is not as useful. I'm really hoping for... Wow. Awful. Come on.
Infinite possibility.
You are being the worst. Okay. So, an important thing that you can do on IGT, and I'm not very good at it because I don't run IGT, is you can actually pause, buffer the door at the end of an encounter, like this, to get an idea of what's going to be on what door, without actually taking in-game time. Another example of a place where the timer is paused in-game is here in the shop. Usually, if you're running in-game time, you can actually take as much time as you want in the shop. You can kind of look up here and say, oh, you know what? I do still want Poseidon cast.
In the name of Hades.
You can kind of like take your time. Anytime a boon screen is open, that stops the timer as well, so you can take your time and things like this. I'm gonna go with mean streak here. But for real time, of course, time continues ticking when you're selecting boons, so it doesn't matter if it's not running on the in-game timer because it is on real time.
Just in time.
Nemesis is actually a great example of a character who's great to see on in-game time runs because she pauses the timer in her room as well. So, anytime you see Nemesis, it's pretty handy. Unless it's in the Fields of Mourning, because sometimes she gets caught on the different obstacles and stuff throughout the room, and that just makes it miserable to have to wait for her to be able to leave.
Made me look like a fool.
Oh, lucky. Another big difference between in-game time and real time is rooms that give things like this are super handy for in-game time, or sorry, for real time, because generally choice rooms go a little bit faster. Not always, but sometimes. Honestly, this Poseidon special ain't half bad. Oh, wow, this is awful.
The clearing isn't far.
The majority of runners tend to split only on end of region, including boss. But I like to split the extra one for not just region, but also for I suck at this game. I can't believe I missed. Oh, wow. I like to split for region as well as boss because that gives me more data points to work with when I'm trying to improve. But just generally most. Anyway. Not the fastest Hecate in the world, but kind of okay with it. One of the few... This is a really weird, small niche thing, but Hecate's, unlike any other boss on the run, does not have her drop follow you when you dash out after an encounter. So, it's actually slightly slower if you try to buffer a dash towards the door for Hecate specifically.
That briny smell.
So we're still missing origination here, so I'm gonna want to grab that as soon as I can. Out of the cores that I'm missing, the only slot that I'm missing is dash. And so for dash, we're gonna need either Apollo, Aphrodite,
As expected.
or Hera. I think that's it off the top of my head. Let's get some rerolls back here. NPC rooms always stop the time as well, so they're very useful to pick up, just like a shop. And just generally on speedruns, it's faster than clearing an actual encounter. Because, you know, fighting enemies is slow and talking to narcissists is fast.
Olympus, I accept this message.
Yeah, we'll take quick buck.
What a pleasant surprise.
Hail, boatman.
Y'all are gonna laugh at me for that one. Nobody saw that I just picked up Nexus Rush. Okay, so I actually really struggle with Rodent sometimes because he's hard to spot. It's funny, I was talking to some of the other top runners were talking in the Discord, and it was funny how
Very well.
many of them commiserated on the fact that the rat is really great if you can burst them real quick. If you don't, then it's very easy to lose him, and then suddenly you're running out of time.
In the name of Hades. Let's do it.
Secret crash, nice. Alright, now our damage should be much better now.
She's back. Huge.
Right. Wow, I suck at this game. Jeez. That was a really awful Scylla, but it's fine. So, as you can see here, I'm just going to dash towards the door, and the reward will follow me. That doesn't happen with Hecate. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. Okay. Chaos gates are generally great in the first two regions, in both Erebus and Oceanus on the Underworld run. And they only appear in Aphira and Olympus on the surface run. Fields of Mourning
Flourish.
is not great for Chaos Gates because it messes with the biome depth, which is kind of a bit of a higher level kind of thing.
It is not enough. I see.
Which effectively just makes it so, actually, I really like Arctic. Arctic Gale? Arctic Gale?
Worth the risk.
Yeah, and so it messes with biome depth if you take Chaos here, and can make you get deprived of Echo, which is not great. So definitely, it's not worth the roll of the dice on whether or not you'll get
Echo, it's you.
the a good roll on
Take care now.
on the Chaos Gates through the fields. However, there is several data points of people having picked up 2 Light Evixians leading into the fields, which is very rare. It effectively means that you have to get a Light Evixian both in the post-Scylla room as well as the final room in Oceanus. It's very unlikely.
No foes in sight. Illuminate my path.
Another big thing is on the Hades speedrunning Discord, there's plenty of resources available, like maps for different regions and stuff, which is super handy, specifically with the Fields of Morning, giving you just more of an idea of what the layout is like. It can give you a lot of practice with that, memorizing the maps as you go. I suck at this game. So I'm trying not to read chat. I know I normally like pay a lot of attention to chat. I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to you guys right now as I'm trying to do this explain.
You're looking better already.
Alright, so I'm gonna go with the basic strategy, or the more cowardly strategy of running Lion's Fang. A lot of people run White Antler though. Like top runners will run Antler for sure. It's the way to go, but you don't need to immediately hop into it if you're not ready. You can take your time warming up with Lion's Fang or any of the other options I gave at the start of the run.
Satyrs of their ilk yet remain dedicated to the Titan's cause.
How did that miss? So, as I said before, NPC rooms are just generally really, really good, except for Hades. And that's specifically because I kind of brought it up earlier in the field stuff. Biome depth kind of determines how many enemies will be in a given location. And so taking extra locations actually means eventually taking more enemies in the final encounter. So it's totally worth it to just skip that and leave them chained up there.
One chamber left.
Alright, Cap, I'll give it to you. Nexus Rush is good now. I will never admit that it was good before.
Predictable. Hear me, on my authority.
Oh, success rate. Success rate is generally really, really good on speedruns because it basically makes it so you Any sort of like percentage chance boon basically makes it more likely, which is great, especially with White Antler, because that takes your crit chance and makes it go up too. So anyway, so that's phase 1 Chronos. Oh. Wait, what? Oh, did I phase skip? Oh, that's funny. I didn't think I'd be able to with that antler. That's funny. Anyway.
Of all my vexing relatives, you are amongst the worst. A time flow freely forth.
I don't think I've ever phase skipped with an antler before. That's funny. So anyway, we ended up with a 16-18 there.
Suffer in darkness.
Which is pretty alright. The clear time of like 7:36, not incredible. I mean, it's decent, but like, yeah. So here's our like end results page. But yeah, that was for a run that I was like not super like engaged in trying to go super fast or anything. I think that turned out pretty alright. Took 69 damage from Chronos, nice. But yeah, that's the gist of RTA speedrunning. Like 16-18 is not like super impressive in the grand scheme of things, but it's important to note when you're speedrunning that you're always going to be improving. It's not like you're just instantly going to be a top runner in the game. I, for one, am admittedly not great at this in the sense that I have spent a long time doing speedruns, and I'm only just now getting into the sub 14 area of real time, and in the, I think the lower 6s for real time, or sorry, for in-game time in Underworld. So I mean, I'm not like a super incredible runner, but I still have a lot of fun with it, and I've come a long way. Since around this time last year, I was actually grinding to try to get a 3-weapon run in under an hour. And now I can do it in 46 minutes. So, improvement is improvement. You will get better as you go. Remember all those things that I said throughout, which is like, you don't have to pick the fastest strategies right away. The fastest strategies are really good, but often come with some sort of like trade-off in terms of like safety. So it's okay to pick safe strats and get used to it, especially if you're planning on running in a marathon, like anything GDQ related, like hotfix or frame fatales or anything like that. Picking safer strats is going to be very, very handy. Because the last thing you want is dying on a run. I mean, that feels worse than just about anything out there. So it's okay to pick the safe strats and do just as I did there. You can still go fast. You can still do well. But with that, that's going to cover our general speedrunning tutorial. I guess like the last point of note is when you're running an RTA category that has multiple components, like a 3-weapon run or an all regions run, a small thing to note when you're doing longer form runs like that, where you're passing through the crossroads, the time that you spend passing through the crossroads counts too. So you're gonna have to like do some work into making sure that you make it as smooth as possible. One of the small things that I do that makes like a pretty nice difference on passing through crossroads is utilizing the keepsake priority function. Like when I'm doing all weapons rounds, I start with I actually like to start with Poseidon on Hell, and then I do Zeus on Circe and Eos, and then I do Aphrodite on the rest. So when I'm doing that run, a small thing I do to optimize stuff is before I get the run started, I make sure to mark Zeus as priority, but then equip Poseidon. And so what that's going to do is once I finish the run on the Skull and come back through the crossroads, it's instantly going to swap to the Zeus Keepsake. And then when I'm using Zeus Keepsake on Eos, as I'm passing through from Region 1 to Region 2, since I'm going to be scrolling over to Fig Leaf anyway, I just make sure to stop and prioritize Aphrodite on my way over to Dionysus. Which is another way to make sure that I don't even have to stop at the Keepsake case when I'm doing the run.
Might as well.
Some runners are going to have different altar setups for when you're doing different runs on different weapons and stuff like that. That's an important thing to note as well. I'm going to turn my camera and timer off here so you can see a little bit more clearly. But you can actually run up to 6 different decks. So if it's comfortable with you, you can even do a separate deck for all 6 weapons if you're doing an all weapons run. Super handy stuff. Like, nice. It's nice and easy little things like that that you can kind of juggle and get used to by just doing small things. So, now with all of that being said, I think that pretty much wraps up our first tutorial. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you learned something. Hope you got something to take away with it. As I said, I'm not like the world's best speedrunner or anything, but I do like it a lot. I do have a lot of fun with it, and I do use a lot of niche aspects that other people aren't running. You can have fun with this game. You can have fun with speedrunning this game at any skill level, with any weapon, with any aspect. And you can still be competitive. You just gotta put the work in, and you'll get there. In time. Bye-bye.